Next, we have Evan Barnard. Evan is a 10th grader at Johns Creek High School, loves birds, conducts science research on the impacts of roads on habitats, and plays fiddle on the fiddle team. In addition, is my brother. Go figure. But his idea for sparking change in the world is making the outdoors, especially trails, more accessible to other people of all levels of vision. And here is Evan.
Near Hog Island, Maine, there is an island called Eastern Egg Rock. This island used to be home to many Atlantic puffins. Now, in the early 1900s, women used to have hats that boasted beautiful feathers. These feathers were obtained by hunting birds for their feathers, which resulted in populations of species such as Atlantic puffins ceasing to exist on islands and habitats such as Eastern Egg Rock. So this man named Stephen Kress decided he wanted to do something about this. So he started a project called Project Puffin. Now, Project Puffin was basically an experimental idea of his. But what he did was he took some puffin chicks from a nearby island and reintroduced them to that island of Eastern Egg Rock. Then he put wooden puffin decoys all around the island so that puffins would return. Now, why would somebody put wooden puffin decoys on an island to hopefully repopulate that island? Now, people were skeptical about this, but he went towards his goal. The project turned out to be very successful. The first year, there were only 3 chicks, but last summer, or this past summer, there were over 100. This has taught me that really put some, say, determination in there and put some thinking outside the box, and that would combine to create long-lasting change. I didn't realize necessarily at the time what this meant. So, it all started for me on a boat ride back from Sapelo Island along the Georgia coast. I was watching the waves in the drizzling rain. It was a beautiful day, and I saw a man wearing a Nature Conservancy hat, name tag, and I really like nature and conservation, so I thought I'd go over there and introduce myself. I did. And a new friend was made, Mr. Malcolm Hodges, then became my friend. And I asked him, how can I get involved with the Nature Conservancy? And he told me that if I came up with him to Rome, Georgia, then I could work with him on a Braille nature trail in his Marshall Forest, which is one of the Nature Conservancy's few nature preserves open to the public. A Braille nature trail is a nature trail that is accessible to the visually impaired because it has Braille signage and guide ropes so they can go along the trail. This trail, called the Big Pine Braille Trail, was the only Braille nature trail in Georgia. The trail needed a lot of work. When I got there, all 15 Braille signs had been stolen. They were aluminum. So, who would vandalize a Braille trail? I was determined to fix this. With the new plastic rail signs that the Rome Garden Club had graciously donated, I installed those signs and fixed up the trail. Then it was vandalized a second time, and all the guide rope was stolen, so I replaced the guide rope and fixed it up again. Then a lady from the Rome Library suggested I go attend a meeting with the Rome-Floyd County chapter of the Georgia Council of the Blind. So I attended the meeting, and I was expecting to just kind of give a talk, tell them about the trail. It's like, okay, so there's this really great Braille trail here. You guys should really come see it. But what I found was a very welcoming group. They're just great people. And I decided to get a bit more involved. So I got to know a lot of the members of the visually impaired community of the Georgia Council of the Blind. And I learned a lot from them. So I learned they really have very limited access to so many things, and really simple things, such as going to work or using a computer are much more complicated for them. Some of them had actually gone to a nature camp when they were young, but since then, few had been able to go out on a trail and experience nature. Now, the visually impaired can't necessarily see a bird or see trees, but what they can do is listen to birds. They can feel the bark on trees or hug a tree to feel the circumference. That's one of their favorite things on these trails. So they can also listen to running water. It's so many possibilities for them to do. And I have spoken into multiple chapters at a state conference. I have spoken on Georgia Radio Reading Services radio show called Eye on Blindness, and led a trail hike for 25 members of the visually impaired on the Big Pine Braille Trail. And I have been on the International Braille blog, and people from all over the country who are visually impaired have been contacting me like, okay, so can you build a Braille trail for us? So it was amazing to find out, also through their stories, how few Braille trails there actually are in America. So for my service, I was awarded the Wint Barton Award for Distinguished Service by the Georgia Council of the Blind. Thank you. Okay. This experience made me think we need to get more visually impaired out on a trail so they can experience nature too. So I was also thinking, what could I do to change that accessibility for them? I decided I'll build another Braille trail. So I've been building a Braille trail in a location closer to home for them. Rome is northern Georgia, a little harder for some people to get to. So I spent 2 years looking for a trail and for funding. Then finally, I got a grant from Youth Service America and Disney Friends for Change, and that was one of only 50 in the United States. So I found a trail, good pre-existing trail, at the Gwinnett Environmental and Heritage Center in Beaufort, Georgia. So I was on my way. So I started my project on Global Youth Service Day, April 27th, 2013. Global Youth Service Day is the world's largest service event, and young people across the world address needs in their communities on that date. Over 2 million youth in over 100 countries and 6 continents participate in this event. On Global Youth Service Day, I gathered youth volunteers, and I had them kind of lead each other along the trail that I found. So they wrote down each other's comments, and I got some input on kind of which science stations would be good, which had a lot of sensory experiences, which would be easier to use, all sorts of stuff like that. But all of the volunteers that came were very inspired about how, without using their vision and only their other senses, how different a Braille nature trail, or just a nature trail in general, could be. So with the sign sites marked, a group of volunteers came out and cleared a new part of the path, so it'd be a continuous loop trail, and that way they could just continuously go along a guide rope. So a climbing rope company donated all of the rope, which is a lot, so I'm very thankful for that. And also, I approached Home Depot stores, and I immediately found that they have made an incredible partner for this project. Incredible. They've really made this project possible. They donated 75 posts for the rope and signs, the concrete for all of those, and sent out groups of employees and their own equipment to come out and install every one of those. So we were really making great progress. So this trail is called the Whispering Oaks Braille Nature Trail for the different types of oaks that line the path. The Braille and print signs have sensory and identification information, such as the species of trees as you go along the path, and some of the mnemonics, or that's what we call them, for the birds. And they encourage you to feel the tree roots, to listening to running water, to listening to the different sounds that the leaves make when they're blown in the breeze. And because these signs are in both Braille and print, everybody can utilize them and have a better experience on the trail. To me, it was very important that the visually impaired community take part in building this trail. So I invited some Georgia Council of Blind members. They came, and another group of youth volunteers came and led them. So we asked them, okay, could you give us some feedback on like some of the sign details and some of the ease of use and what you enjoyed and what you thought was difficult? They told us that they wanted more detail, colors, and basically more specific details so they could more vividly experience the trail. Now, one of the Georgia Council of Blind members that came, he told us, you know what, it has been so long since I have gone on a Braille nature trail, or a nature trail in general. This is such a great experience. These kinds of experiences and comments really make this project worthwhile. So now this trail has been completed, and we just need to install the signs. It's coming soon. And at the trailhead, there's going to be a sign acknowledging all the volunteers, the organizations and companies, and also some of the visually impaired from the Georgia Council of Blind who have really made this happen. Okay. So others have asked if I can help build Braille trails for them, so I'm creating an instruction manual so they can do that. My goal is to create Braille trails all over the state of Georgia, and possibly even nationwide. And my hope, after hopefully creating this next rail trail on Global Youth Service Day, which is the plan, I plan and hope that this project will be continued and a new rail trail will be created every Global Youth Service Day. This has really been a project of personal growth for me, too. I've learned a lot from the visually impaired, especially their contagious humor and positive appreciation of life. The happy expressions on the faces of the visually impaired as they hug a giant oak tree on the trail make this entire project one that has been worth all the time that I put into it. So, we can all use our resources and volunteer our time. We can bring the beauty of the outdoors to people who cannot necessarily venture outside. We need to be creative and resourceful and innovative to create long-lasting change. Access to nature for people who are visually impaired or have other disabilities is something we can all strive to accommodate. Making opportunities like nature trails accessible is a way to remove barriers between those with the disabilities and the nature outside. So, shouldn't we all be able to experience nature? Thank you.